Hello out there, we're on the air. Welcome back to the channel. This is another hostage video today. I haven't done one of these for a while. The internet just decided that it was going to stop working on my laptop, my main laptop only today. So we got no camera, we got no mic. We're just going off the MacBook here. But anyways, I want to get this video out there for the channel. It's from day 26 of our 365 Days of Bitcoin course that we're doing. Basically talks about capital versus cash aspect of Bitcoin, kind of Saylor versus Jack Dorsey part of Bitcoin, and how important it is for us to keep the freedom aspect of Bitcoin, the peer-to-peer electronic cash aspect of Bitcoin intact. So I want to share this. This is, again, day 26. If you're interested in joining 365 Days of Bitcoin course, I would say that this is for three types of people. Number one, people who are brand new to Bitcoin. Number two, people who are somewhat new to Bitcoin, but feel like they're kind of missing in a few areas and want a more well-rounded knowledge base of Bitcoin. And then number three is anybody who's either has a significant amount of Bitcoin and feels like they're ahead of their skis a little bit, or they have a significant amount of Bitcoin being held somewhere else right now, and they eventually want to move it into their own custody. Whether you have it at an ETF, holding it on an exchange, or wherever. These 365 days basically cover everything you could ever imagine within Bitcoin and beyond. So one of them, we got a video posted every single day on the channel, and works out to be about $1 per day for Canadians. Americans, it's even less than that. So if you're interested, it's not too late to join. You just gotta have to do some two-a-days for a while, but that's okay. So I hope you enjoy this video talking about the freedom tech aspect of Bitcoin and how important it is to preserve that. So thanks for watching, and sorry for looking like a complete bum today, but whatever. I think the world needs a little bit more authenticity in Sunday mornings here. So enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hello out there, we're on the air. Welcome back. This is day 26 of 365 Days of Bitcoin. And I actually I'm not 100% sure on this, but I might actually end up just sharing this video on YouTube because I think this is an important one right now. And so last show, day 25, we talked about MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin as capital was kind of the theme. And I said the next one's going to be talking about Bitcoin as a currency. And that's been a pretty hot topic within Bitcoin as of late, which is Bitcoin a capital, or is it currency, or is it both? Or is it that and then a whole lot of other things? That's kind of my opinion on it, is that it's capital, it's currency, and it's a slew of other things all mixed into one, which gives it all of its value that it has. So I talked about MicroStrategy. I talked about it as capital and kind of how to think about that. I gave some advice on MicroStrategy and how we should be thinking about that. And basically the moral was any capital you have in that system that's trapped, that's what goes in MicroStrategy. But anything that's outside of the system, any cash you have on hand, anything that you can easily withdraw or sell, convert that into Bitcoin and take actual self-custody of that Bitcoin. Because that's what really gives Bitcoin its power, is the self-custody aspect of it. And with MicroStrategy, you're kind of trusting two places. You're trusting Saylor, MicroStrategy, they have the Bitcoin, and you're trusting the brokerage account to say the shares that you have, you're the only one who owns that, plus you can access them whenever you want to. With Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's a lot more responsibility. You have to educate yourself a little bit, but you get to take true custody of that Bitcoin that only you have the keys to. And you get to decide how you store it, when you send it, where you send it, whatever you want to. It's completely permissionless. And I think the further we get down this road here, in terms of looking at Bitcoin like capital and very convenient to purchase and very convenient to hold, having somebody else hold it for you, the further we get down that road, the further away we get from where Bitcoin was designed to be. So if you look at the peer-to-peer, if you look at the Bitcoin white paper, the very top of it, it says peer-to-peer electronic cash. So there's two things to me that says. Number one, it was meant to be a currency. Number two is that it's meant to be cash. Not like the money that we have floating around right now in our online banking accounts. That's not cash. That's a currency, a digital currency that somebody else has the keys of, somebody else has to give you permission to use. And with Bitcoin, it's cash. And so I really wish people had a better understanding of that in terms of the cash part of it. And I want you to think about this. I want to use an example of a barber, and actually explain this to my barber myself, and they got it right away because it makes so much sense when you explain it like this. So why do barbers love cash? Why does anybody love cash? It's because I can take a $20 bill from my pocket and give it to you, and nobody else knows that happened, right? Which is, got to be careful what we say here, but that's pretty ideal. That's what you want. It should be private. Currency should be private. It's not normal how surveilled we are and how controlled everything is and how fake everything is. It should be private. So if I went into the same barber and I had a lightning wallet, let's say I had a wallet of Satoshi or a speed wallet or a Koinos or whatever lightning wallet you choose, and I want to pay my barber for a haircut, open up my phone, I get their lightning address, or they send me an invoice, or they put up a QR code as an invoice, and I can send them that Bitcoin, and nobody else knows it. I have it, or they have it now. You have to be kind of careful with that. It's not fully private. There are fully private ways to do it, but that's an example that it's possible. So Bitcoin itself is very transparent on layer one, very transparent. And I think that Bitcoin is actually going to add transparency to the people who need transparency, like public companies. One in particular that holds 450,000 Bitcoin. Transparency. Should be able to look at their addresses, their wallets, and see how much Bitcoin they have in there. Public companies, hedge funds, big investment firms. They should, if you're putting money into a fund that claims to have Bitcoin, you should be able to see that they have that Bitcoin. And the third one, most importantly, is governments. It's been 111 years in the USA since the Federal Reserve, the one who creates money, one who issues money and gives people debt, creates new debt. It's been 111 years since they've been audited. So they have zero transparency right now. And so if we move to a world where Bitcoin is the reserve asset of the world, and these governments are holding Bitcoin and they're issuing currencies based on that Bitcoin holdings, we're going to want to see how much does Canada actually have? How much does Trudeau have? Well, right now we know zero. But let's say that Canada decides to start buying Bitcoin and adding it to the reserve and making it actually our currency backed by that Bitcoin holdings. That's kind of where things are headed right now. So you could see, and El Salvador actually does this today. You can go to a website, El Salvador's Bitcoin website, and you can see all their transactions. You can see their current balance. You can see everything about it. It's very transparent. So it's going to give transparency to the people who need to be transparent. But on the flip side, it's going to allow privacy for the ones who do want to be private. And I think that we're kind of headed down this road right now in terms of lending, like in terms of Coinbase now offers Bitcoin lending. We're going to collaborative custody where somebody actually holds the key to your Bitcoin. The further we get down this road, banks now, SAB 121 was revoked yesterday, which means that the banks are now able to hold Bitcoin, hold and custody Bitcoin. So as we keep going down this road of convenience, it's going to get easier and easier for people to buy Bitcoin, which is good. But that we're going to get further and further away from what Bitcoin was designed to be, which is a peer-to-peer electronic cash. And so Saylor's big idea, Saylor says that the reason why we need to be paying more attention to Bitcoin as capital is because it's a much bigger pool of capital. He looks at the worldwide assets being 900 trillion, and he says that about half of that is inactive, which means that assets people are holding just to basically maintain their purchasing power. So think about like government bonds. Think about like equities, I believe would be one. Real estate, rental homes that people aren't actually living in, but they're just storing their wealth in there because there's nowhere else to store it. So 450 trillion, that's kind of his number that he's going after in terms of that money should flow into Bitcoin eventually. So that's why he looks at this as capital. And I think that he's right to do that. I do, because I see it the exact same way. But he also says that if we were looking at Bitcoin just as a currency, that's maybe 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 maybe trillion of an idea. So that's kind of the scale that he's talking about here. But I would actually, and the reason he says that is because if you're trying to sell Bitcoin onto somebody with a lot of capital, and if they're just trying to get a better currency, they're only going to allocate like a very small percentage, maybe, because it's a currency, right? Rich people don't hold a lot of dollars because it's a currency. So basically I would give a little bit of pushback there to him, because yes, that's fair. Like the currency itself isn't a huge market. If you're trying to become a better currency, that in itself isn't a big idea. But here's where I would disagree, because when you actually have a peer-to-peer electronic cash, a currency that it's globally accepted, globally recognized, that unlocks the whole world as an economy. And so that's a much bigger idea than just $5 or $10 trillion, because when you are able to connect people, the internet kind of helped us with this, but Bitcoin is what really allows us to see this through. Because if I wanted to hire somebody today in Uganda or Pakistan, wherever, if I wanted them to build a website for me or design a t-shirt or whatever, before Bitcoin, I would have to jump through 50 different hoops before I could hire them, before I could send them money. Not only would I need my bank's permission, their bank's permission, it would cost probably 20, 30% to send money. Plus, it's about a week to get there. It's a nightmare. So that trade right there would have never been able to happen without Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin, I can get there. All they have to do is send me their Lightning address, which looks like an email address. And as long as I have that, I can send them Bitcoin instantly with zero fees and nobody's permission. And that's a pretty big idea. So that to me is much bigger than 10 trillion, 20 trillion. That unlocks the whole world's economy together. And I mean, I could go on a whole bunch of different rabbit holes with this, but I'm going to keep it on the straight and narrow here. So that's kind of the difference between the capital, between the currency. That's my pushback there. And just to kind of understand why Bitcoin itself is so valuable, because you're actually talking about both here, plus a lot of other things on top of that. So here's what I want to suggest for people. And here's my point of talking about this. I think we should be paying more attention to self-custody. I think we should be paying more attention to privacy. I think we should be paying more attention to security. And I think that we should be paying more attention to using the tools that are available to us today. And I'm thinking about things like nostr. I'm thinking about things like eCash, which is a completely private way to send Bitcoin back and forth. eCash. Liquid's a very good one. Lightning's also pretty good, but Lightning's not the top of the chain here in terms of privacy. But we should be adopting these things, and we should be encouraging our friends to do the same, whether it's on nostr, whether it's on a video streaming service like Zapstream, where you don't need anybody's permission to use it. You don't have to put in your identification. You don't have to hit 4,000 watch hours before you can start earning money. We need to be actually talking about these things, and we need to be using them, because people are building these today. They're being built right now. They're already built, a lot of them. The problem is, if we don't use them, they're going to stop building. And when they stop building, then we're basically going to be ushered into this world where everybody's Bitcoin is held by somebody else. Everybody's Bitcoin is fully KYC'd. They know who owns it. And that's a pretty dark spot. That's not what Bitcoin was designed to be. So what I would encourage people today, kind of like an actionable item here, is number one, look into Nostr. You can just go to nostr.com. You can scroll down and look for the something on the side menu that says clients. And it's going to show you different applications, Nostr apps that you can download on iOS, Android. Just create one. And the two I suggest for DAMUS, or for iOS, for Apple, is DAMUS, DAMUS. And the one I suggest for Android is Amethyst. And I hate spelling this one out loud. AMETHYST, I think. But anyways, go to nostr.com, nostr.com, scroll down. It says clients at the bottom. Download one of those and just create an account from there. When you go to that website, you're going to see a big button at the top. It says create a Nostr account. Don't use that. Just use Damus or Amethyst, create your account from there. And then just look after your information, your public key, your private key, keep those safe. That's like your username and password. So that's number one. And the second thing I would say is like, put a big emphasis on holding your own keys, on taking custody of your own Bitcoin. And depending on where you are in your Bitcoin journey, how far along, how much experience you have, how much knowledge you have, how much confidence you have, it's going to be, everybody's different. Everybody's in a different spot. But you should be actively working towards taking self-custody of your Bitcoin and making sure it's in a place where nobody can take it from you. That's the whole idea here. That's the big idea around Bitcoin, is that you can take self-custody of this asset. You can't do that with anything else. So there will come a day where we can lend against our Bitcoin. There's going to be a day where we can do a whole variety of things with our Bitcoin. We can deposit it into the bank. We can get a loan against it from the bank. We can maybe swap between our Bitcoin, our Trump coin. Just joking. Take it easy, everybody. Take it easy. Swap between our MicroStrategy shares, swap between our dollars, swap between anything. But that's all going to be KYC'd. When you're using the banks, when you're using these investment platforms, when you're using these apps, that's all going to be KYC Bitcoin. So you should be taking steps now to take custody of that. If you have any way to get Bitcoin without that, even better. But it's not something to obsess over to me. You should just have a good mixture of kind of everything right now. Some KYC Bitcoin, some non-KYC Bitcoin, some MicroStrategy shares, some Bitcoin ETFs maybe, some on the exchange, some on a hot wallet, some on a cold wallet, some on a multi-sig, some in an encrypted backup. That's the further you get into Bitcoin, you don't diversify outside of Bitcoin, but you start holding them in different places with different accessibility, different risks, different trade-offs. That's kind of where you branch out to. Because even if you're a hardcore Bitcoiner and you want to be Bitcoin only, to me, there is still a giant risk of keeping it all on one wallet, even if it's in a multi-sig, one wallet, couple of UTXOs. So you need to be thinking far out here, and you need to not panic, but just be thinking through this stuff of how I can actually take custody of this. How can I ensure that in 50, 100 years from now, my family is going to be able to access this without anybody's permission? And the beautiful thing about this is what I love most about Bitcoin, is that not only is it the only asset that you can actually take custody of, but it's also the only asset that you can actually be sure that you're going to have in 100 years from now. Because if you look at land, if you look at other real estate, if you look at gold, all of these things have fees attached to them, whether it's property tax, whether it is insurance on them, whether it's storing your gold. These all have fees, annual fees attached to them, just to basically hold your asset. And so to me, that's a leak. That's a leak in your family's wealth. And Bitcoin has no leaks. If you do this properly, if you take actionable steps to do this properly, you're going to be able to take custody of this asset. You're going to be able to protect it, put it there, and it's going to be there for 100, 200, 300 years with zero leaks in that. And that is something that we've never had before, something we've never even dreamt of before. So I've talked a lot about the big ideas, what gives Bitcoin its value. I could call this probably a variety of things, but again, just think about Bitcoin in a peer-to-peer cash and structure your setup on that, structure how you obtain Bitcoin based on that, and just start using Bitcoin. Even if it's a very, very small percent of your stack, get some onto Nostr, get some in a Lightning address, get some in an eCash wallet, start sending it around, start doing stuff with it, and start unlocking this worldwide potential that we have for an economy, because that's where everything's going to right now. And the more familiar you are with it, the more knowledge you have in terms of using it securely and privately, the better you're going to be able to live without all this bullshit surveillance that we've had for our whole lives, pretty much since the internet came out. So again, Bitcoin is capital. Bitcoin is currency. It's both. It's a lot of things. That's what gives it so much value. But we shouldn't get too far away from the peer-to-peer electronic cash aspect of Bitcoin. So thank you for watching this. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.